Hey, and welcome back to the Optimized Ecommerce Podcast. I am Tanner Larson, CEO of Build, Grow, Scale, and your host for this podcast. Today, we are going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to talk about some more of the geeky, somewhat boring, but super critically important stuff of why it's so important for you to capture your customers' data and information and analyze that. And then not just why you need to do it, because we've probably heard that a million times, but the problem with why you need to do it that people have a problem with is they don't know how. So we're going to cover the how of how do you actually capture that customer data. And then more importantly, once you've got it, what do you do with it? And how do you use it to improve your store's performance? And to help me do that today, we have one of the BGS optimization experts named Dominic. Dominic is our youngest ever team member to join the BGS team. I think he was about, I don't know, what were you, like 11 when you started working with us? And he's almost 12 now. So he's doing really, really well. But anyway, the cool thing is you'll notice he actually has some face fur now. So like he's definitely hitting puberty and things like that. But anyway, aside the fact that he's like 11 or 12 years old, he is by far one of the most dominant forces in the BGS optimization team, managed some of our biggest stores in the optimization world, and just is like a wizard when it comes to making a store convert and scale. So Dominic, thanks for being on here. And of course, we'll call you Dom the rest of the time because Dominic's just too long of a word.
That works. Yeah, happy to be on here.
Cool. So how old were you actually when you started?
I think I was 15.
15, okay. So I wasn't too far off. But yeah, you were pretty young. And then now you are 16, right?
Almost. 19.
19, yeah. So definitely getting up there in years. We're going to have to get him some Geritol soon. But for now, he's still full of energy. And why don't we kick this off, Dom, with you kind of telling people a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and how you work with BGS.
Yeah. So like I was saying, I actually started when I was 15. Started hopping on some of the team calls with Matt Stafford and some of the other original ROs. And, I've always been interested in entrepreneurship for as long as I can remember. So when I got presented with this opportunity, it was awesome. And over the last 4 years, I've definitely grown a ton as far as the revenue optimization stuff goes, to where I'm now working with a couple pretty big clients, as well as training groups of new RO specialists as they come in, and, getting them up to the level that they need to be to take on their own big clients and contribute to BGS as a whole. So,
absolutely. So to build on that a little bit, first, if you're new to the show or kind of unfamiliar with what we're talking about, RO stands for revenue optimization. When we say an RO, we mean one of our revenue optimization experts like Dom or Alex or James or Eric or some of the other guests you may have seen, or Haley that you've seen on the show. What he also touched on that's actually really cool. So he was 15, 19 now, been with us kind of basically since the beginning of the new RO process that we kind of pioneered in the last 4 to 5 years. But he's also training other ROs. Now, the thing about Build, Grow, Scale and what we do, you can't actually hire for what we do. So if we want to put a job ad up, we can't hire for revenue optimization experience or expertise. It is something that we have to train internally. And Zach's dad, who is actually our COO, Zach, developed a internship program with Haley and a few of our other team members to basically take people off the street, or, not necessarily off the street, but off of a job ad, who are as an intern, put them through a program that's basically 6 months long. And on the other end of it, turn them into a fully capable revenue optimization expert who can then go into a process of learning how to work on the store. So during that 6-month process, they learn a lot. But Dom takes over after that when they're still an intern, basically a junior level RO. And then he's the one that helps introduce them to working on actual client and partner stores and giving them the skill set to learn how to do that and all the more advanced type work, which is really amazing because a lot of the ROs that are coming in are way older and have way more like quote unquote experience than Dom has, just because of life. But Dom's expertise is so powerful and so awesome that he's the guy that we have training them and teaching them. And then basically Dom has his own little version of children running off and now running their own stores. So it's been a pretty cool experience for us to have Dom work with us, as well as watching him grow. So the cool thing is not only is he awesome at the training aspect of it, he's definitely in the trenches every day, sees a lot of massive numbers and all different aspects of e-com, and is pretty ninja at it. So today we're going to go through again the importance of data and collecting that data, how to use that data, and what to do. So to dive into that, let's start with the first question, which is, why is gathering data from your customers so important versus just other data? Why is the customer data so important?
Right. I mean, like you were saying, it's probably the most important thing that you need to actually do when running an e-commerce site. Without it, you're basically just running in the dark, and it turns into a guessing game, which even, as a certified RO, if I'm just doing it as a guessing game, I'm not going to find any wins. Everything I come from, everything I do sparks from data from our customers. Like, think of it this way. So let's say I go to the doctor and I just say I don't feel good, but the doctor, what's wrong with me? Do I have a sore throat? Does your back hurt? Does your head hurt? And I just don't tell him anything. I don't feel good. The doctor's not going to be able to diagnose me with anything without any data. And that's the same thing with e-commerce sites. If you're not tracking any of that data, you're not going to be able to diagnose any of the issues actually going on with your site. And each site is unique. Each site's going to have its own problems, its own faults that need fixed. But if you don't have that data to know what faults need fixed, you're just going to be running in the dark trying to fix random things that may actually already be performing well. So, I mean, that's kind of the gist of it, man. It's really, really important.
Okay. So, I had a thought, since I know we're going to go way deep into this, but before we go deep into it, I get this a lot, and we see it all over the place. Everybody talks about data or KPIs or whatever the stuff. What is data specifically? Like, give us some examples of some of the data that's super critically important that they should be tracking.
Right. So one of my favorite things that I'll actually get into more later is data coming specifically from our customers. And you're going to get that through things like polls and surveys, on-site polls, pre-purchase, post-purchase, email surveys, anything like that. And then, of course, there's Google Analytics, tracking the button clicks, seeing what's working, what's not, as far as that stuff goes. And then just heat maps, user recordings, user tests, and things like that.
Gotcha. That's cool. So going on from that, what are some of the best ways to gather specific data on your customers? I know you just actually touched on a couple of them, but let's go ahead and dive into that.
So diving into that, I had mentioned polls and surveys are some of my favorite ways to actually gather data specifically from the customer. And there's a few ways you can do that. There's the pre-purchase, there's a post-purchase, and then there's the email post-purchase surveys. And they each kind of serve their own purpose. Pre-purchase, you're going to get a lot of volume because everybody's seeing it. Everybody that lands on the site will actually see that pre-purchase survey. Something you can do is ask them, is there anything holding you back from purchasing right now? Are there any questions you have that aren't being answered? And you can actually utilize both those questions on the post-purchase, pre-purchase, anything like that. Those are super powerful questions. But the thing about the pre-purchase surveys is you're going to get a lot of answers there. But it's not going to be quite as valuable as the answers you're going to be getting post-purchase, because the difference between the two is the answers you're getting post-purchase are coming from your actual customers, coming from that customer persona that you want to build on. So I definitely recommend testing both. I wouldn't recommend having a pre-purchase survey on all the time. I have noticed when I activate one, it does dip conversion rate very slightly. It's worth it to get the data that you're getting back, but I wouldn't have it on all the time. Compared to post-purchase, these people already bought. So I definitely recommend having a post-purchase survey on the thank you page is one of the best ways to do that. Have it just pop up. You can use Lucky Orange, Hotjar. I'm sure there's a bunch more other platforms out there that you can do that. But you want to keep those simple 1 to 2 questions at most. Where I actually get the super valuable data from that I've found tests, winning by 20, 30% before, is going to be the post-purchase email surveys. That's going to be emailing the customers maybe a week or 2 after they've purchased with anywhere from maybe 7 to 10 question survey that you set up in Wufoo or any other survey platform, and then offering an incentive to get them to answer it. So something that one of my clients does is actually gives them a $20 gift card to the site to fill in this survey. And it's got 10 questions on it, all, kind of asking different pieces of the funnel, different pieces, questions they still have, concerns, things they liked about the product, things they didn't like, stuff like that. So I would probably say out of all data gathering methods, that is where I found the biggest possible wins.
And that's actually a good one to talk about, because it's not your normal way of, post-purchase surveying. It's not the normal conversion rate optimization methodology for doing it. And it's something that I think, wasn't Alex was the first one to roll that out a couple of years ago. I think was the one he did that with one of his AMP stores. But anyway, it's been something that we've pretty much rolled out across all AMP stores now. And a lot of we also have taught it to some of our Ecom Insider members and things like that. But one of the things that always comes back on that is, I have to give them a $20 gift card. You think about this, that's the wrong focus. Like, I'd give them a $20 bill if I could get the answers and the information that they're giving on those surveys, because it's going to allow me to make a whole lot more money. But the devious part of this is we're not giving them a $20 bill. We're giving them $20 in store credit to come back to the store they've already bought from and buy again. So we're actually getting information from them, which serves us, and then giving them store credit to buy more on our store and become a repeat purchaser, which also serves us and serves them. But it's definitely stacked in our favor. And the other thing is, one thing that we'll have a whole episode eventually on gift cards and store credit, because there's some powerful stuff there. But store credit, actually, psychology and studies and all the things show that when you give someone store credit, the inclination is that they always wind up spending more than whatever the store credit amount is, especially since in most stores, there's not a single product on the store that is $20 with shipping. So there's always more money added to it. And then also store credit is a form of goodwill. So from a karma perspective, once they get the store credit and they thank you for that, they feel they want to reciprocate yet again by spending more with you. So there's a whole lot of really cool stuff going on in what Don was just talking about, not to mention the fact that the gold is really in what they give you, right?
And I actually have some stats on that.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I have that $20 gift card. They actually only have about a 30 to 40% take rate on that. So only 30 to 40% of those people actually getting that gift card end up using it. And then of those 30 to 40% of people, the average order value used with the gift cards is sitting around $70 to $80. So they're getting that $20 gift cards, just like you were saying, but actually going to the store and spending $80. So we're actually profiting on these people.
We're giving you information that you're going to make even more money with.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Wickedly cool strategy. Something we do all the time, and highly recommend you guys can do it. So we've touched a little bit. You talked a little bit about some of the strategies. Is there any other strategies you want to touch on before we move on?
I know I want to talk mostly about the polls and surveys, but as far as some other data gathering methods, just make sure GA is being utilized 100%. That's a lot more analytical, a lot more, is this button working, or scroll depth, site speed, stuff like that. But it's just as valuable as surveys, as well as making sure you have heat maps firing, session recordings, watching how people interact with that page.
And for someone who doesn't know, why don't you explain what a heat map is and a session recording?
Yeah, so a session recording software is going to be something like Lucky Orange, Hotjar, and I know there's more. Nothing else is coming to mind, but it will basically record the screens of your users, so you can watch exactly how they interact with your site, what they're clicking on, what they're reading, if they're skipping over a bunch of the text, what images they're looking at, things like that. And then heat maps basically just take all that data of like thousands of recordings and put it onto like a flat image and show you what's being clicked on the most, what people are spending most time on, and things like that.
So a heat map, like it says, it's kind of like almost like a Doppler radar image of the store, right? So the areas that are more impacted or have the most clicks or movement or focus are shown in red. And then the colder colors, the blues, the purples, whatever, are the areas that are ignored the most. So you basically have almost like a ghosted image of your site but and then overlaid on that is the see-through shades of colors where you can see the hot spots, the cold spots, and kind of where people's eyes and mouse are taken. So then you can figure out how they're interacting with the page.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've gone through the strategies and stuff, but cool. You're collecting all this data. You're giving away $20 gift cards, making $80 back, which is awesome in and of itself. But now we've got all this data. How do we use it? What do we do with it?
So this is,
well, first of all, before we can use it, we got to analyze it, right?
Yeah.
So let's start there. Let's talk about analyzing the data and then use it.
Yep. So this can either be the fun part or the not fun part, depending on who you are and what you like. It's definitely time consuming to run through these polls and surveys, but I promise you it's entirely worth it. And the amount of information you'll actually learn that will be completely shocking that you would have never thought before is insane. So what I normally do with these surveys, let's take the email survey, for example. I use Wufoo, which is just a survey platform. And then I actually export all of those answers, every single answer to all 10 questions into a Google Sheets.
Yep.
Make a new page in that sheet for each question. And then what I do is instead of like answering or writing down every single question, I'll scroll through all the answers to each question and I'll categorize each thing. So for example, let's say some categories. Let's say the question was, what questions do you have that weren't being answered on this site? And then I'm getting a lot of answers to do with, let's say, how long does this product last, or things similar to that, or I'm trying to think of some other stuff I've had, or like what's the shelf life on this product, or does this product add protection or things like that. I'm actually talking about a vehicle coating, just so you guys know, and things like that. So a lot of different answers can kind of categorize into those categories. So what I'll do is I'll write each of those categories out as I'm scrolling through all these questions and then rank those. So let's say, I'm scrolling through and like half the responses are, well, how long does this product last? Then obviously that's going to be the top answer on my sheet that I need to address. So I'll do that process for every single question. It is pretty lengthy, but it's pretty sweet to see what you'll learn about your product, your site, and your customers. And then from there, you'll have every single answer ranked in order as to how many people actually said that. So then I'll create hypothesis from each one. So I'll go back to the how long does each product last? So I was looking at the site I was on, and we actually answered that question, but we answered it in a way that people were just scrolling through so fast they weren't reading it. All right. So what I did is I took the answer I was getting from that survey and then went and looked at some user recordings to see why people weren't actually seeing that. Because we were answering it, but people weren't seeing that. So what I did instead is I created a hypothesis in my head, knowing that people had this question, but they weren't seeing it on the site. So the hypothesis was I need to take this and branch it out in a different way. So what I did, instead of having a long product description on the page, I branched it out into icons that people could easily scan with just a big headline. So I think the headline was last 3 to 6 months in front of a headline as basically like a UVP icon. Mm-hmm. And then went through and then A/B tested that and actually ended up getting a 25% lift in conversion rate. To go back a little bit, I guess, the story of this whole test was I pulled the top 3 answers I was getting for why did you buy this product? So I asked the consumers, why did you pick this product on our site? What about this product made you buy it? And then took the top 3 questions that weren't being answered and then turned it into 6 icons. So 3 to do with the biggest reasons people were buying it, and then 3 to answer their biggest questions, turned it into 6 icons, and it was a massive, massive, massive winner.
Awesome. So the icons were image-based that were tied to a text piece, right? That were kind of helping explain what it was?
Exactly. So it's just an icon with a header and then a 1-sentence description under each that. So what you'll learn is, in today's world, nobody wants to read anymore. They land on a website, they're just going to scan. Nobody's going to read your paragraph product description. So breaking it into icons, people are scanning, they can just read the header. And then if they want to expand on that, then they can read the little description under that.
Yeah, building out your stuff for scanning and no walls of text or long blocks of copy is a huge, huge benefit to your consumers. But to go back, so we're talking about, how do you analyze it? Mm-hmm. But it's more, it's not you talked about it, but I want to point it out, I guess I should say, is that it's not a single step process. Like you get the stuff and then, you could just read them in the Wufoo form, like individually, but you're not going to get the effect unless you can see them cumulatively and see what commonalities and what common threads come to the surface. So in this case, for this one little step to do this one test, there was collecting the data, exporting the data, organizing and breaking down the data into different things in a spreadsheet, then, ranking them based on responses to see what the responses were, then taking those top responses of like what the problem was, going to another piece of software, which in this case was a session recording, to see, hey, I know we answered this question, but why aren't they seeing it? So now you look at the session recording to see, well, what's happening? In your case, you saw they were scrolling past it, or it was a cold area on a heat map or whatever. So now we've used basically three tools to analyze the data to get to where we can actually figure out what we want to test, what we want to come up with to see if we can improve that problem, right? Or solve that problem.
It's like the scientific method.
Correct. Yeah, it totally is. So I want to make sure people realize that it's not just this one little thing. And like, Dom said, it is labor intensive, but it's a big step. And in their case, it was like a 20+% lift with just that one little fix. And it was actually top three. So I guess you could call it 6 fixes, but really it was one change to the page that made a massive 20% lift on a store that has an AOV of what?
$120.
Yeah. So it's a big lift.
In millions of dollars of extra revenue.
Yeah. Millions of bucks of extra revenue just from that one test. Okay. So this is the importance of it. And then also we touched on really kind of how you're supposed to use it. Anything else you want to touch on how you can use that data that you're getting?
Just be creative with it. Like I noticed that one of the biggest problems had to do with the product page and then the product description, but obviously, each site's unique. Each site's going to have its own issues. So be creative, take your data and then be creative about it. Like I didn't really have any huge data behind putting the top 3 things and then the top 3 questions behind anything. That was just a creative idea I had to push. Maybe, people are going to want to see the 3 coolest things about this product and then answer the 3 biggest questions. And that test ended up just being massive. Of course, it sparked from data. So just hypothesize different things, create different ideas, and then dive into those ideas and, brainstorm which one you think will work the best.
Yep. Now, just to kind of touch on that a little bit and expand, we have talked a lot about user testing and everything, and we've isolated that to not user testing, but session recording and post-survey data. We've isolated that to talk about the product page, but it's not the product page alone, right? The information you find, a lot of times you wind up making changes elsewhere in the buyer's journey, correct?
It's everything. Yeah, this specific example had to do with the product page, but it's everything.
Yeah. So you may find, on a why did you almost not purchase, that you weren't clear if you were going to be charged shipping or not, even though it says free shipping. But then when you get into the cart, it says shipping will be calculated at checkout.
Yep.
So that kind of, I'm giving that as an example because it's something that happens all the time.
Yep. I have an example actually that I used on the site for checkout. So it was through developing a customer avatar and pulling data from the surveys. I noticed that checkout wasn't converting as well as I would like it to be. So I had an idea to add some UVP icons on there. But I needed to know unique value proposition icons. So basically just 4 simple icons, 3, 2, however many you want. And I just added them to checkout, but I needed to know what the content was to be. So I developed a customer avatar, which we'll actually get to here in a minute. And through that, I learned that the main target audience was very like Southern American driven, as well as, supporting like family-owned businesses, American-owned, shipping through the U.S. and things like that. So what I ended up doing is making 4 icons, one being made in the USA, another one addressing the shipping concerns, saying fast shipping from Missouri, because their warehouse is out of Missouri. Third one, family-owned business, as it was a family-owned business. And then fourth one, I think I used thousands of 5-star reviews. And I used that because one of the top answers we were getting to why did you buy this product was reviews. And then just adding those 4 icons, just simple icons to check out, increased conversion rate by 9.2%, which is a massive, massive win for checkout.
Yeah. That's your most valuable customer or traffic right there. And a 9.2% lift is, again, millions and millions and millions of dollars for this store per year. So, okay, so we touched on it. Let's go back and formally address it though. What is a customer avatar?
So a customer avatar is basically just a detailed profile of your ideal customer. So basically it's who you picture your perfect customer as, and get detailed with it. So maybe it's a 42-year-old male with 2 children who loves hunting, fishing, and lives in Texas. So like your customer avatar is one person, and then
we're not making this up though.
No, we're not.
How are we coming up with the fact that they're married with kids and all that stuff?
So that's from data. That's from surveys. That's from Google Analytics, especially. If you're utilizing GA right, you'll actually be able to track a lot of that stuff, as well as that's pretty much it. Customer surveys and Google Analytics.
And you're taking, again, the kind of the average or the higher end, whatever the 80-20 of all that data is to formulate your avatars, correct?
Exactly. And then once you have that specific avatar, you want to utilize that to, generate more revenue through your site, through marketing, through every single aspect of your e-commerce business. You actually target that person. Now, obviously, you don't only want to target a 42-year-old man with 2 kids in Texas, but you want to take a broad spectrum that dude kind of fits in the center of and target all of those people.
And to further clarify on that, so your avatar, once you have this person, let's say our avatar's name is Jed, because Jed likes to hunt and fish and whatever, and it's awesome to name them. Actually, most companies who have successful avatars actually have a name for them. And you may have a male avatar and a female avatar. You may actually have multiple male avatars. If you have your store sells a range of products, but your 2 main age groups are, 25 to 35 male and then 45 to 55 male, you may have 2 avatars. You may have Jim, the older one, and Dom, the younger one, right? You could do that. But the thing is your avatar is then what you use for your marketing, your advertising, your buyer's journey, how you write your copy, who you're talking to when you write an email. That is, and how you lay out your site is to benefit Jim and Dom, because that's the person that you're building your entire company to serve.
One of the biggest mistakes I see is trying to sell to everyone. There's no business out there that sells to everyone. You want to pick that market, and you're going to be 10 times more profitable advertising and delivering to that market than trying to just push everybody to your product.
Totally. Now, before we get into like how to use the avatar to make more money, which you did touch on a little bit, let's talk about the avatar in its relationship to like optimization. Optimization, we always say, is a moving target, right? Just because your site's optimized one day doesn't mean tomorrow it's going to remain optimized, right? How does that apply to avatars?
Yeah, so your customer avatar is going to constantly evolve. Just as the world changes, as everything changes, obviously people change as well. So you want to utilize that on your site as far as, a lot of the copy goes, a lot of the images, and even new product ideas can spark off your customer avatar. And, like I was saying, it is always changing. You want to keep testing different strategies. Obviously, it's never going to just take like a sharp right turn in another direction, but it can always evolve in small ways. So you want to constantly test different strategies, appealing to slightly different avatars to see which one worked the best. And then maybe you'll learn that, maybe he doesn't love fishing as much as you thought he did, or, things like that.
And another aspect of that is, because obviously, Dom is working on a lot of the big stores, like huge, massive, 8-figure stores that he works on. But we also, through our Ecom Insider program and our Ecom Academy programs, have a lot of more startup stores, smaller 6-figure stores that, or store that does 10K a month and they're really trying to get moving. A store that's in a startup phase or a small growth phase, or just, kind of getting things figured out still, you may be targeting an avatar that 2 years from now, you'll realize was never the avatar you should have been targeting. And initial avatar research comes when you're trying to start a brand, comes not from necessarily your data, but from what other external market data you can compile to give you an educated guesswork of what your avatar would look like. That's why it's so important to do what Dom's talking about, because you may hone in on this avatar and realize that, when you actually start selling, if you look at your data, that it's not even the same thing. We've even had big stores who are telling us that their avatar is a male, and forget the other demographics, but then when we actually look at their data, 80+% of their buyers are female. Yep. But it's a male product, but the females are the ones buying it. So that they're doing all their marketing and everything completely wrong. So just know, especially in smaller stores, that your avatar will more than likely evolve potentially multiple times. And then even if you are a successful and big store, like Dom was saying, it's going to evolve and it's going to have to be updated. So you want to continue to look at that stuff, at that data.
Yep.
All right. So we understand the avatar. We know it's important. We know we get it from the data that we're collecting that you already talked about, and then through our Google Analytics and our tag manager and all of that. So now we've got our avatar. How do we use that avatar to just fill the bank account?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's similar to kind of what we've been brushing on too. It's as far as, the on-site stuff goes, it's going to be your copy. It's going to be your images. It's going to be how you approach the delivery of that product. It's the design. If it's going to be like an older, maybe country audience, your design's obviously going to be a lot different than if it's going to be a Sephora, like a makeup brand for young women, and then like you were saying with marketing as well, want to be targeting that audience. You want to be writing your ad copy, your ad graphics towards that avatar, and you want to make sure everything correlates. So all your emails, all your on-site copy, all your ad copy, everything needs to correlate to that same avatar.
So another question I want to jump on now, because going from the avatar, we've covered a ton there. I think that's some really good nuggets there. We can kind of shift topics a little bit. This one is more about, like, obviously I know your background. I know what you work on, and you for the people listening, Dom is he's been all over the place within the BGS framework. He's been one of the pioneering intern type guys to learn RO as we taught it before we even had a real program. He's worked on tons of stores within our Amplified Partnership program. He's assisted on store audits. He actually, if you're interested in becoming an Amplified Partner, chances are you will do an exploratory call with Dom before you ever get to me or anybody else. And he'll give you a whole bunch of value in those kind of calls. But he also has worked across different stores. He's worked with our Ecom Insider members. He's done jam sessions where we critique stores through our members, and he's just kind of through the gamut, all right? So knowing that, what I want to ask you, Dom, and so people are going to realize you're drawing on that experience, if there was one common theme or one thing specifically that you see over and over and over again in our AMP stores or other stores that people are just not getting or doing wrong, what would that be?
That's funny. And I promise I'm not doing this on purpose, but it is gathering data wrong. It really, really is.
I was not setting you up for that. I was actually expecting a different answer, but okay, go with it.
Just even working with these big clients to see how messed up some of their GA is. And like you're saying, their customer avatar, they have no idea. They may be selling, but they have no idea how much they're actually missing out on. And I've seen that time after time. And I promise I'm not just saying that because of the, what this is about, but it's truly, just time after time, continue to see that.
Yeah. And that's, to touch on that, I love the answer. I mean, I did expect you to go a different route, but it is the truth. And, one of the biggest things that if you were to say one of our secrets to success is our ability to analyze and use Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager data really, really well, probably better than honestly anybody that we've ever met. So that's a big weapon that we use. And when amplified partner stores come into us, the first thing we do is we audit their Google Analytic account and their GA Tag Manager and all of that. And we get in there and we're like, okay, the store owner comes to us, oh yeah, our Google Analytics is great. It's set up good. We've got great data coming from that. The problem with Google Analytics is when you turn it on and set it up, if it's set up incorrectly or not collecting data correctly, it doesn't tell you that. It just delivers the data as if it's 100% legit. We have yet to have an app store in over 4 years come to us that we didn't have to completely rebuild and reconfigure their Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager to make it collect data correctly. So what does that mean? These stores, if they were using their Google data, which most of them are not, if they were making decisions based on false data. Yep. So they're almost successful in spite of themselves. And this is not a knock against these stores. These are all great stores, very powerful, and they're doing great, but they can be doing so much better. And that's where we come in to help them do that. So that's actually a great point to that, Dom.
Yeah, I'm curious, what direction did you think I was going to go in?
I thought you were going to go more into basically just dialing in like the checkout and cart pages, because we see that's where the biggest drop off is. Yep. More of a tactical answer, less of a hard work answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean that's honestly, nobody wants to do the hard work. I mean, obviously our team is totally different in that aspect. That's why we're so good at what we do. But yeah, that was where my head was going, was to more of a tactical, like, do this one thing and this will make better. Yeah. But honestly, I think you gave them what they needed to hear. So I have one more question that I have to throw out there. Guys, what you do not know about Dom right now is he is hiding his beautiful hair behind this hat. Yes, there we go. You see this? Dom has not had a haircut since I met him, and he doesn't know what he wants to do. That's 4+, actually more than that, 5 years of hair. Like at our big events or whatever, he's on stage with that, I guess it's a fro. I don't even know what you call that monstrosity of hair. But Dom, everybody wants to know, what is it like and how do you handle being so incredibly good looking?
Well, Tanner, I figured you'd ask me that. And honestly, it's wonderful. No. Yeah, I actually just got a haircut not too long ago. It just doesn't look like it.
I can't tell. So guys, I have threatened Dom with a haircut every time I've seen him since I met him. I think even the first day I met him, I'm pretty sure I threatened him with a haircut. It has not worked, clearly. It does help that he's in Colorado and I'm in Nevada, but still, Dom is probably the only, 15 to 19-year-old kid I've ever seen who can pull off big hair like that. That's not like your typical afro or something, crazy. But yeah, he pulls it off, and I'm not, jury's still out on that little lip fur thing he's got going on, but the hair is for sure one of his. I honestly, the team, that's another thing we should talk about. In the Build, Grow, Scale framework, and we have 63 full-time members of the Build, Grow, Scale team at this point that all work on revenue optimization. That's all we do. Every good idea that anybody has ever had in Build, Grow, Scale comes from Dom. So no matter what, the idea gets shared and we all say, man, Dom, thanks for the idea. So it's just a company-wide thing that we know that Dom is the gift that's given all great ideas to the universe. And the reason for that is, I don't know if it's Alex or James or one of the other ROs determined that Dom's unique superpower of knowing everything comes from all the knowledge and brain power that's stored in his hair. So every time he gets a haircut, he actually loses some of that wisdom. So he really can't get a haircut. Otherwise, Build, Grow, Scale would suffer.
Right. Right. So I listen when you tell me.
Yeah. It's science, guys. Can't compete with science.
Yeah. That was crazy.
All right, dude. Well, hey, I appreciate you very much, guys. At this point, this was a great episode. If you have questions and you're watching on YouTube, throw a comment below. We answer them. We'll get new ideas for new podcast topics. If there's something else you'd like Dom to come back on a later episode and dive in deeper on, go ahead and throw that below, throw an email into support, let us know. Make sure that you are subscribed. This is a dual platform style podcast, right? We do a video podcast on YouTube. We also do a audio version on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. So if you need links to be able to subscribe to both of those, and I highly recommend you subscribe to both, because sometimes we do video-based episodes where we're actually sharing our screens or looking at sites. So hearing it on audio may not be quite as powerful as being able to see it. So you may want to be able on both. So go to buildgrowscale.com/podcast, buildgrowscale.com/podcast. And you can get links to iTunes or Stitcher, the YouTube channel, whatever, and you can subscribe on both. Also, at that link, you'll find all the podcast episodes that we've previously done. There's show notes, transcripts, all of that is in one place for you right there at buildgrowscale.com/podcast. And again, if you like what you see, leave us a review. That helps the podcast grow. It helps us get feedback and keeps us excited to do more. So with that, Dom, thank you very much for being here. And everybody, we will see you on the next episode.